So Terrorbane just came out on April 1st, 2022. It was Bit9 Studios is the developer and published by Whisper Games. This is a single player action adventure role playing puzzle, very unique experience that has a wonderful aesthetic, a very 16-bit graphical aesthetic, a lot of depth, a lot of humor, and a lot of Easter eggs. And I guess it's kind of like comparing it to like games like Undertale, like in a subcategory of these unique titles that do something different. They take the formula and they kind of throw it out the window, and they expect you to play the game due to the formula, and that's not exactly the way to play the game. So I say let's go over to Greg. Why don't you start off and talk about your experience with Terrorbane?
Sure. Um, I had a lot of fun with it. It really reminded me of like a Axiom Verge in a sense because that like uses like glitches and like stuff as part of the actual gameplay, but obviously that was used in a much different way than this. I was just making the comparison of just like using glitch to have as a game mechanic, and I really like the way that they kind of used it here. So it's like you can be trying to interact with certain people and certain objects, and then it'll be like, oh wait, like this is broken, and they like call it a game bug, and then there's like this pseudo developer council thing that like comes up as part of the storyline, and it's really cool to be like, oops, I forgot to fix this, or oh, you shouldn't be able to do that, or um I was too lazy to fix this, like you're not supposed to find that. And like it was really cool like how they worked that into the exploration thing, and it felt really rewarding to like find all these different like UI elements that were obviously purposely designed to be that way, and it was just a very interesting take and very cool element to the story. And I was really enjoying my time with it so far, and it will definitely be a game that I will be continuing to play as the time goes on. The soundtrack and the gameplay was all really flawless, and it's almost like a retro RPG kind of style game that has a story and exploration and stuff. And I just had so much fun playing it so far, and I really want to get further into it. I mean, it's gets pretty crazy with like you could just have like a like a crate of pears like join your party and stuff. Like it's like really silly and really great, like the ideas that they put into this game. It's a lot of fun.
I couldn't agree more. Steve, what about you? How's your experience with it? And then I'll go last.
It's really interesting to hear you guys talk about it and praise the game so much because I did not like it. um, yeah, I think the concept is really interesting. I love like where they're going with it. But I felt like it was too crazy and like there wasn't enough like I wasn't in any section long enough, and maybe because I made decisions that accidentally like made me fly through the game a little faster. I don't know, and then I got stuck on some sections that just kept repeating. Like there's some areas where I was just like progressing super fast, and I was like, oh okay, I guess we're just moving on to the next style of game or whatever. And then I had one section where it just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And I was like, what in the world's going on? And it was really difficult to beat some of the RPG matches and stuff like games because especially when it started glitching out. And I was just like, what do I do in this instance? And finally I got through that, and then I had to rebuild the game. But then there was an area like like one thing you have to do, and it was not obvious at all. I clicked everything, and I finally had to go to the internet and was like, okay, someone else please put a playthrough on there so I could see what to do. And there was like this one little card on a little menu that I had to click to drag around. Like I had no idea it was there. Everything else was like pretty obvious except for that thing. And I was like, there's no way to get past it. So like I felt like it wasn't even. Like it was all over the place. And like some of that is by design, I know, but like it was a little too crazy for me to actually enjoy it. And I know you can go back and play it over and over and over again. I don't want to go back and play it over and over again. I don't want to find all the glitches because it was too crazy for me. And yeah, so it's interesting. Like how this game can be polarizing even among the three of us. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah. See, I fell in love with this game because, I'm, being an older school gamer. I remember the days when, the internet in its infancy, learning how to code HTML and how websites work. And there used to be a website, I couldn't tell you the name of it now, but pretty much it had all these puzzles, and all these puzzles were like it would give you a question, or it might give you an answer and you had to figure out the question, and that was it on the page. And like, what do I do here? And you actually had to go like into the source code of the page and figure out and piece together, and it was like really crazy stuff, and it really had you think outside the box to solve these really cool puzzles. And I always loved that. I love that idea of, let's take something that and really stretch it, and make you think. Let's make you think, oh, it's easily go right, and then no, it's not. And like area you're talking about with the card, that little tiny card, I found the card, but then I couldn't figure out, like, what do I do? How do I get this last thing? Because you had to build three things,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I figured it out, because I had to go to the desktop and I had to move things around, I'm like, oh, that's genius! Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's so cool. Like, I never thought about doing that, and I don't want to spoil anything. But this is one of those games where I beat it. It took me about 3 or so hours to beat the game, and I was like, all right. But then I looked at the bug list, because there's all these bugs, and each chapter has three versions, and they're very different, the chapters. So I went back, and I saw things the second playthrough that I never saw. Like, the first playthrough, I went through a text adventure that
Mm-hmm.
other people might not have ever experienced the text adventure. The second playthrough, I wound up doing what we were talking about with the credit card. I didn't do that in my first playthrough at all.
That's
You
interesting.
know, there's a bunch of different ways to experience and what to do, and there's even some, like, one of the crazy things to get a weird thing is in the second area. If you leave town, which you may not even want to leave town, but you can leave town, and there's a map to explore, and like you can go, and there's like this evil den, and they're looking for power, and you can go take one of the power items and just walk over and give it to them, and you rule the world. Like, that's one of the endings, and it's like, well, like, that's cool that they threw that in there. A lot of quirky stuff. There's a lot to explore. There's a lot to see. The RPG battles are very, very unique. They're like, I don't know. They're like, in one chapter they're very standard RPG fare, but in another chapter they're very, very, very different. And I don't want to say how or why, but from what I haven't gotten to this yet, when you get enough bugs, because the idea, the purpose of the game is to show the developer that there's enough bugs that the game is broken, you actually get a brand new chapter with, that's the same length as the other chapters, with the true ending and everything going on. So there is a lot of depth to this. It does take replayability, but you will see some really crazy ideas, and sometimes you have to have certain items. And Steve, when I said the text adventure, I saw you nodding,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a feeling you got it the same way I got it. You got an item, and then the whole world kind of just got destroyed.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. See, I did that my first playthrough, and then the second playthrough, I was talking with our newest reviewer, who did a written review, Lunchbox. So definitely check out his written review. It's on NintendoFuse.com, and he was telling me, "Oh, I didn't have that because I put an object in its plot." I'm like Indiana Jones, thinking like, where'd you get that object? And sure enough, there was an object that I never
Hmm.
interacted with, and it's there, and it's a crazy, interesting battle to do that. And then and when you do that, you change the whole game. Like, the whole game takes a whole different direction, and that's the kind of thing. This game, some chapters you could beat very quickly, some chapters could take you a little while, but to me, it's so unique, it's so
Hmm.
different, that it stands on its own. It does not try and emulate other games, in no sense. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely pays homage to a lot of games with, there's a lot of Easter eggs and callbacks and references to other more mainstream games, but it definitely does things unique. Greg, what would you say was your highlight from your experience?
I really had a lot of fun with like trying to find some of the bugs, to be honest. Like I like left town, and then like was immediately like in like water and like was falling down
Yes.
into like a whirlpool or whatever, and like that was just like so completely absurd. Like, is that they call that a bug or whatever? But it was like just like the crazy ideas that you just like see, and I've just been like exploring the town as much as I can, and like everything just keeps getting more and more like crazy. Like, to me, that's a huge highlight, just to see like they're not playing by any of these normal like bound like rules and stuff, and like it's pretty much anything goes kind of thing, and like you can't really expect like anything to work the way it's supposed to, and it's just, I don't know, I think that's part of the fun of it. And I only played for about an hour or two, but it sounds like I really need to be buckling down more if you can beat it in like 3 hours. But like I
You
was pretty much square like I was just like wandering that first town, like going like all the way right, all the way back to the left, all the way like go up a little
mhm.
bit, all the way to the right, all the way to the left, and like it's really cool. It's like I really try to take my time with it and explore every inch that I can.
That's so interesting. So cutting out the time where I was just frustrated and left it on the pause screen because I couldn't figure out what was going on. If you cut out that time, I actually finished it in under 2 hours.
There you go.
So
See?
yeah, so like I think that was the case. Like I was just like progressing and not knowing why I was progressing, and like all of a sudden things would just happen, and so that was a little too sporadic for me. I was like, I don't even get to explore this one world before I'm thrown in another one, and I don't even know
But
what's
you
going
can.
on. I can, but I didn't. But I was accidentally moving from one to the next. Sometimes progressing, even not even knowing, like wanting to progress. But all of a sudden, I did something that made me move on to the next world or next level or whatever you call this, because it's not linear like you would think it would
Chapters.
be. But but yeah, I think I really. I'll say this again because I love what you guys are saying. Like, I love the concept of it. I love that it doesn't hold by, it's not bound by all the the rules of other video games and stuff like that. I just don't know if it's not where it needs to be for me, but I absolutely love the concept.
It's one of those things where every chapter, like if you get through a chapter and you feel you've done everything in the chapter, you didn't. Because especially if you go to the bug list and you only see one of those spots there, and you didn't see the other, you didn't. there's there's quite a lot to these chapters, and they're quirky and they're unique. And if you accidentally progress, like Steve did, you can go back to the chapter and say, well, if I did A, this is what happened. So I know not to do A now. Let me go explore and see what else I could find.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I found a lot of the charm. Like I found charm my first playthrough, but I really fell in love going back. And when talking to the developer, he said that was the 100% biggest hurdle they had to deal with is getting people to go back in after they finished their first run
Well,
because
I
there's
think
so much more to the game.
yeah, and I think it's really helpful, honestly, to know that from the very beginning. Because I went into it with just standard video game playing mindset. Like, I want to progress to the end. I want to beat this game. That's probably not the kind of mindset you need to have going into
Oh.
this. And if you do, you might be disappointed like I was. But if you can free yourself from that, I could see how you could really enjoy it a lot more.
For example, the opening scroll is actually part like a chapter. It's one of the chapters in it. There's three ways to do the scroll. Did you guys discover all three ways to do the scroll?
I just let it play the whole way through.
Okay. What about you, Greg?
I found I could walk into the darkness, and then all of a sudden like it like reloaded the same like room or whatever. Like I went to like
This
the
the
right or
opening
something.
scroll. I'm talking the openings.
Oh, that, I thought you were talking about the level that came after that.
No, no,
No,
no.
I just let it play. I saw I could skip
Okay.
it, but I'm a sucker for reading the story, and
So
Which is
see,
really, really confusing, by the way.
yes,
I
it's meant that
really
way.
wanted to skip it so many times. I'm like, nope, I'm probably supposed to
So
watch this whole
so
thing.
but then
it's
I
not.
did trigger something, like it let me like it, then it said like, oh, your punishment is to watch the opening sequence again, and then like it started playing the story, and then I like, okay, well, I already read this. I hit skip, but then like the skip button was like, oh, sorry, you can't skip this, and then like like it zoomed like playing like the opening. It was
Nice.
Yes.
that's like how crazy it is.
So to show how crazy, like I did the same thing. I let it play the first time, and that's one way to do it. The second way is to skip it and skip it, and the developer yells at you, and forces you, says no, you're going to watch it again, and now there's different glitches that are happening during it. And then if you skip it a second time, he gets even more mad at you, and it reloads a third version of the scroll where even more crazy stuff happens, and there's all these new bugs that you have to get, and he's yelling at you the whole time, and it's hilarious. And that's just the opening scroll. And
Wow.
it's funny because, like you said, you wanted to get through it, and it was ridiculous, and it was ridiculous on purpose to try and get people to test your patience and try and get people to skip it, and then
Yeah.
you get yelled at, and then you're forced to watch it again. It's hilarious because
Yeah.
it really is that fourth wall breaking, and it plays on these tropes, and that's
Mhm.
just the tiniest bit. I don't want to spoil anything else. That's just like
Yeah.
the tiniest little bit to know what you're getting into in this game, because it is absolutely crazy, and it is fourth wall breaking, and it is just a unique experience. That's it. You have to
Yeah.
go into it. This is a unique experience. This isn't a typical role playing game or an action game. It's more a puzzle game than anything else, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And
And don't
collectathon.
go by that opening story. That's I think that's why I thought I was like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to save this world or whatever. No, that's not the point of the game. But that's what I thought it was the whole time. And but it's like, yeah, that opening scroll. What it reminded me of is I don't know if you guys know. I've heard like jokes, or I'll put it in quotes, jokes that just go on and on and on, building, and then all of a sudden
Yeah,
this happens, then this happens. That's kind of what I thought of when I was like, this is getting ridiculous. Like,
but it's genius.
yeah.
It really is genius the way it
Hmm.
works. Yeah, so for those that are interested, Terrorbane is available digitally on the Switch. It's also on Steam. On the Switch, it's normally $15.99. Right now, it's actually on sale, 10% off. It's $14.39. We'll go to you, Greg. Would you recommend this to people at that price, or go wait for sale, or not at all?
Um, I kind of, if you're saying like you can pretty much go through the entire game in just like a few hours and you just need to do a few playthroughs, it does seem it's like a little bit on the pricier side. So I would almost think like a sale would be better unless you're fine replaying like the game multiple times. Obviously, if you have the mindset that Steve was describing, just like you want to just be one and done to go through it, then I don't think this would be the game for you. But if you're one that wants to like find every single thing, then I definitely think it would probably be worth it. If and then most definitely if it was on like a sale or some kind. I think this one definitely has like an asterisk tied to it, depending on how much time you are willing to put into it.
Okay, Steve, what about you? Now that you've heard everything as well.
Right, right. I think I know, like, knowing what all went into the game and knowing how creative it is and all that stuff. I see why the 15.99 price tag. Like, this is a lot of work and a lot of effort that went into creating this whole thing. So I understand the price, but I will definitely say that I will only recommend it with the caveat of, if this sounds really interesting to you and intriguing to you, then check out this game. If this sounds annoying to you, it's going to be annoying to you, and you should stay away. But if this is like, I think I want to check this out, then trust your instinct on that. I'd say so. This is because this is definitely not a game for everyone.
No,
Yeah,
I
that's what
can
I was
agree
getting
with
at with
that.
my. Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say I could agree with that. I think it's absolutely worth the price if you're looking for something that is completely different. If this sounds exciting to you, and you're going into the mindset of, I want to try and collect all the bugs, I'm going to go through it multiple times, because it's not terribly long to go through it, and you don't have to recollect the bugs. Let me put it out there. If you're trying to go for all the bugs, you get, let's say, 10 bugs in your first playthrough in one chapter. When you go back to that chapter, those 10 bugs, you can read them, but you don't get credit again. So the credit's already saved. So you can kind of skip them and try to find new bugs. And I like that. I like that it's not like, oh, you have to get them all in one playthrough, because it's impossible. You have to do it multiple times. So that is absolutely something to factor in. But if that's something that excites you, if that's something that really sounds up your alley, and you like fourth wall breaking, out there games, this game will completely break the fourth wall on you, because you are not actually playing Terrorbane. You are playing the player playing Terrorbane. And that's weird. You are playing yourself in this game, playing Terrorbane, which is really, really a cool concept. I do also want to do a quick disclaimer that we were all provided codes for this review by the developer. So thank you very much, Bit9 Studios. Also want to do a quick call out to our newest member on the team, Lunchbox, who did post a written review. So please check that out at NintendoFuse.com. And I also want to say, we've got a giveaway from the developers because they were so nice. We've got a code for Terrorbane that we will be doing on Twitter. So please look forward to that, and you might be able to win yourself a copy of Terrorbane for yourself to explore and try and see how you like it. And then if you do win and you play, please let us know because I'm curious your thoughts on the game.